Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Where's Carl on the Monkey Caviar Podcast Network. I'm Tiny, your host. With me, as always, is Adam Levy. Adam, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing great, Mike. How's it going out there?
Oh, it's fine. It's fantastic. It's still it's nice. We got like these 2 weeks where it's perfect in the South,
Yeah,
and we're right in the middle of that right now, so it's great.
nice.
Like it's about 75, and yeah, it's a really great time. It lasts about 2 weeks, and then it's going to get butt cold.
Oh,
But
gotta love the South.
it is, yeah, it's great out here. But we'll talk about that tonight too, as a part of The Walking Dead. I'm very excited this is coming back. Did you happen to watch Westworld?
I didn't. It's on my DVR. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
All right, we can't talk about it, but wow,
Yeah,
it's so
I'm looking.
good.
I'm looking
It was
forward to it.
really good. Yeah, we might have to do a show on that. But if we do, it'll be right after The Walking Dead. We'll do a half hour on that or something.
There you go.
But it's pretty incredible. So we're going to get started with The Walking Dead. We're going to do a couple of seasons each week leading up to this season 7 premiere that we're all looking forward to because we got to see who Negan takes out. And,
Well, there's some crazy shit that's gonna be coming up on this season. I'm looking forward to King Ezekiel.
yeah, Shiva.
Yeah.
There's going to be some great stuff, but we're not gonna spoil stuff. We're not going to talk past issue 100 of the comic.
No.
And we're going to try to do the same thing we did with Preacher a little bit and compare and contrast the comic and the TV show. And for some odd reason, I'm going to bring the Beatles up a lot.
Okay.
I understand you're going to have to hang with me on this one, but I have a theory that The Walking Dead is a lot like the Beatles' career. And we're going to start with seasons 1 and 2, which I have dubbed the Epstein years.
All right.
These are the beginning years of the Beatles where we're putting the band together. We got the Mop Tops going, and it's I Want to Hold Your Hand and the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah.
Everybody's on board. We're going to watch seasons 1 and 2. Hands down, everybody's in.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, this when the show premiered, I mean, it was ridiculously popular. I mean, they took a great comic property in The Walking Dead, which was, one of the best things that Image had done in years. I mean, Image had kind of, I wouldn't say they've fallen off the radar, but they hadn't been doing a lot of great stuff, a lot of small books here and there. But Walking Dead is one of the books that kind of put them back on the map. So,
yeah, I've heard that the first run, issue 1, original prints go for upwards of like 10 G's now.
They are worth some bucks, yeah.
That's pretty incredible for a book that's not, 50 years old.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at the time when Image put this out, they weren't, selling a lot of books, so their print runs were pretty small.
Right, they were black and white. There was no color.
Well, black and white was the creative team's choice on that one. They decided to go with that. But yeah, I mean, it was a small print run. It was a writer that nobody really knew about at that point, and an artist that nobody really knew. It was a zombie story, and nobody expected the book to blow up the way it did.
Apparently, Robert Kirkman is in my town all the friggin' time.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised.
Outcast shoots here.
Okay, yeah.
So he's been spotted at our local taverns all over town, and I have yet to run into him. But I'm sure if I do, it'll be quite a sight.
Yeah.
So I got into it. Atomic Steve, who is my comic book lifeline and lifeblood, and he's my messiah, basically. He gave me the Walking Dead when I was a wee scrap of a comic book reader, and because he really did get me into the weird shit first.
Yeah,
like Preacher was the first thing he gave me, and then it was like a couple of other things, Transmet, and then The Walking Dead and Fables, and really good books.
Yeah. He actually turned me on to Walking Dead too. I wasn't reading at the time, but he handed me the first trade. He's like, because we were working in the shop together, and he's like, "Hey, you got to check this out." So I read the first trade. I'm like, actually, it's pretty good.
And it is a really good trade. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, and here's the one of the premises that Robert Kirkman stated when he first decided to put this book out was that You know, he liked the zombie stories, the movies and all that, but he always wondered what happened after the movie ended. You know, you've got the people that get away. The zombies don't go away, but what happens to these people after they get out of the house or after they get out of the mall? Where do they go? What do they do? What happens? So he wanted to tell the story of what happens after all these movies end. And, you know, it's a great story because there really is no end to it, because there's always going to be survivors. You know, the cast is going to change, but, you know, the background isn't really going to change.
Do you think there's anyone in The Walking Dead that is unkillable?
No, I
None.
really don't think there is.
You don't think anybody, you don't think Rick, you don't think Carl, you don't think Judith, you don't think anyone is unkillable?
Well, I could say something about Judith, but I don't want to spoil a whole lot.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I think there were plans to kill off Rick at one point.
Wow, that'd be crazy.
But yeah, I mean, like Robert Kirkman said, you know, from the beginning, don't get attached to anybody because you never know who's going to live and who's going to die.
Right, and the problem is I get attached to the bad guys a lot because I love the bad guys always. And you know, I know when I see, you know, like we'll get to it, but like the governor and Negan, I want these guys for like 3 seasons.
Oh yeah, because some of them
I
are like,
love that kind of that mindset that what's his name? Ian McShane, Deadwood, bad guy.
Yeah.
Cocksucker.
Swearingen.
Swearingen, that's it. Yeah, I loved Swearingen because he was just a bad dude, but he was always going to be there.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, you know, in a zombie apocalypse like this, you know, the zombies pose a certain threat, but they're not the main threat. It's the people, it's the other survivors that are the really serious threat. And you've seen it throughout the show. You saw it with the governor. You saw it with Terminus. You know, you see these people, and they're the ones that you really have to be afraid of.
But I think that the TV show tends to swing like a pendulum back and forth between it's a Walker problem, it's a people problem. It's a Walker problem, it's a people problem. It's a Walker problem.
I mean, you don't want to just keep, you know, you don't want it to be like a Dragon Ball Z type story where it's just like each new human that comes along is, you know, exponentially worse than the one before that. And it gets to the point where you've got this guy that's pretty much, you know, you're going to have the survivors versus God at some point.
But isn't that about what it has been up until this point at least?
Yeah, but you got to give that break in between because you don't want to just keep escalating. You know, okay, we got the governor gone. Let's move on to the next human bad guy. You know, you give it a little bit of time off so that you can appreciate the next guy that comes along and be like, holy shit, this guy's even worse than the last one.
Yeah, I think the show is at its best when they're in imminent danger, like when there's walkers right next to you or behind the door. But my favorite parts of the show are when they're having fun, and doing things that are just human.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you don't in this kind of apocalypse, you don't usually see kinds of fun. You know, you get like in the movies, you get like a brief montage of them like running around the mall having fun or something. But ultimately, it's a survival story. It's a horror movie, and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop every time.
It's got to be fun. There's got to be fun at some point. It's the golf episode on Lost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything that's bad, there's still got to be a little bit of time for fun.
Yeah, because, you know, if it's just all, you know, fear for your life all the time, that's depressing, and nobody just wants to sit there and watch that. You know, you want a reprieve from that, you know, edge of your seat, like, oh my God, is this person going to get bitten? Is something going to jump out of this doorway here and kill these people? You need that break. You need that to calm down a little bit so you can be ready for the next time something like that happens.
All right, Tammy's sending me messages she can't get to our chat. The chat is open on the YouTube page. If you follow the link that I posted in the groups, you should be able to get to the YouTube page, and there is a chat. It's open. I hope it's open. Let me see. I'm going to type something just to see if I can. Let's do hi. Yeah, the chat is open, so no problem. There's nobody in there, but it's open. That's okay.
We're starting small.
Yeah, we actually had a bunch of people chatting during the Monkey Caviar podcast on Wednesday.
Nice.
Because Angel found out that we had a chat room. And so now that I've figured out how to monitor it, anybody has any questions, pop up in the chat.
Excellent.
All right, so as the Beatles are putting the band together, that's where we start. And Rick wakes up in his coma, and he has to, you know, put the band back together, basically. He's got to go find the wife and the kid. And his partner all right, let's talk about Shane for a minute.
It was a
I
great.
understand.
I love the casting for Shane.
I do. John Barenthal. I love John Barenthal. He's great, and he is so great that I hate this character so much, and I know I'm supposed to, so it's okay. But oh my god, this guy is such a d-bag.
Oh yeah.
One, who nails his buddy's woman? Like, it's like months after the corpse, and he's not even a corpse.
No, yeah, he figured, okay, well, my buddy's in a coma. The zombie apocalypse is broken out. We're not going to get him out of the hospital, so he's going to be dinner for some zombie. I'm going to go take care of his wife, and yeah, exactly. Get a little piece on the side. I'll raise his son. I'll bang his wife. It'll all be good.
All right, and I can do this because it all happens within the span of these 2 seasons. But I'm so happy when Shane gets his due.
Oh yeah,
and because of the way it goes down, it's even better because it takes him out there to execute him, and that's bullshit.
Well, the death in the book I liked it a little bit better. It happened a lot earlier. In the book, Shane never made it to the farm, but they did kind of stay a little bit true to the death in the show, where Rick ended up taking him out, and then Carl takes out the zombie version. In the book, it didn't happen that way. It was when Carl put a bullet in his head when he was trying to kill his dad.
Oh, I guess. All right, and I understand you can't have Carl at that point going around killing people.
No. I mean, he was what, 11, 12 at this point. You don't want to expose the kids to that kind of level of violence that early.
Yeah, it was so great. We were going through it. Like I told you before in the pre-show that I was going through the episodes today on the Netflix and watching these first 2 seasons, and then I flipped to the end to watch the Negan bit, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, babe, hey, that's Carl." She's like, "That's Carl."
Well, it's funny. Yeah. During the first couple seasons, when I was listening to Kevin and Bean, and they had the various members of the cast on the show, the one thing that they always asked is, like, they hated Carl. They hated the kid that played Carl in the first couple seasons, and every time they had somebody on the cast on, they're like, "So, are you gonna be the one to kill Carl?" And they'd ask everybody, like, please. They even asked Kirkman, "Hey, can you please just kill off Carl? Can you just get rid of him, write him off at some point?"
No way. Carl grows to be a badass.
Yeah, Carl does have an interesting arc ahead of him.
Carl. I think Carl will one day be, the new leader of the new America.
Yeah, I mean, he's, for someone so young to have survived this, this kind of world, and while still being a kid, that takes a lot. I mean, he's got a lot of people looking out for him, but at the same time, Carl has made some pretty adult
we'll be breaking up real bad right there. Sorry. Do that one more time.
No, so I mean, so Carl is, at a young age has had to make some pretty adult choices. He's faced some really serious situations that no kid that age should have to face, and
no, absolutely not.
And he still comes through as a pretty decent character. So I mean, that says a lot for the character of Carl.
Yeah, still in these seasons that are this season coming up, he's very compassionate, young adult.
Yeah, I mean, there are some parts in the book that you start to worry about Carl, and unfortunately, they kind of took some of those out of the show. I don't know if it's just because they didn't want people to see Carl doing some of these things, but there are kind of things I wish they'd left in the show, just to show that other side of Carl.
Like what?
The 2 little girls in season 4 or 5. Remember, Look at the Flowers?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in the book they were boys, which that doesn't bother me. But in the book, it was, they had the one that killed the younger one, and then in the end it was Carl that took him out.
Oh.
In the middle of the night, one night while everyone's asleep, Carl leads him out into the woods, kills him, and then when they come back, they're like, "What happened?" He's like, "I took care of what you guys weren't going to do."
Oh, damn.
And they're just like, "Well, shit. Okay."
I obviously have to read up on the comics because that's badass, and I love badass Carl. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, Carl just didn't. He's like, "I did what had to be done for the group." And it's like, okay, you're making some serious adult choices here, at a young age. You know what's going on in this world.
Right. So he's, like I said, yeah, he can be the new president because he's got it under control.
Yeah.
Plus, he's got the hat.
He does have the hat. That
And
was
the
one of the
hat.
best moves his dad ever did, was give him the hat.
Giving him the hat was a key move. The first walker in this series is the alleged teddy bear girl. I actually met her at Comic-Con, and she was a very sweet kid. That's quite an honor to be the first walker that's seen in the show. That's pretty impressive. It's like getting to kill one of them.
Yeah, I mean, considering how many walkers we've seen in the show, to be the first one, yeah, that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty. You can hang your hat on that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Some of the other walkers I met were they're pretty famous walkers. The bicycle girl one, and the guy that gets pushed in an elevator shaft. You know, they're walkers.
Yeah.
They don't have names.
No.
But it's very cool to meet people that do something like that. It's just so weird. Tammy's trying to blow me up with comments. She can't get on the chat, and it's bumming me out. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. I can't be distracted. I won't be distracted. All right, we talked about Shane and Morgan. Let's talk about Morgan a little bit.
Okay.
How is Morgan's presence in the comic? Is it basically the same as the show?
Yeah, it's almost identical. Like the first episode especially seemed to almost follow the comic book exactly. I mean, with Rick waking up in the hospital, with Rick, finding Morgan and then going to the sheriff's station, Morgan and his son, that's all pretty much right out of the book.
And it made Morgan feel important but unimportant.
Yeah, I mean, even in the books, once they left, once Rick left Morgan, he checked the radio every so often, but Morgan was gone for such a long time. But when they brought him back in the book, it's like, oh hey, it's that guy. When they brought him back in the show, that was very different from his presence in the book. But that's for another episode because we're not even there yet.
Yeah, next season, not there yet. I can't wait to get there though. But yeah, so
Morgan and his son, and the whole thing about his wife being a walker and he couldn't shoot her, that was all like right out of the book.
Right. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool. I know most of it follows. A lot of season 1 is real close to the first book with the CDC and the whole bit. And
well, actually, the CDC wasn't in the book.
No,
that was something made up for that. Was made up for the show.
All right. Well,
see, here's the thing about the show is the show follows the major beats of the comic book. Atlanta, the farm, the prison, Woodbury, and all of that. It follows the story pretty closely. But it's the characters that change, who lives, who dies, and when they die, how they die. A lot of that stuff is completely different, And like when I first started watching the season, it's like, okay, I kind of know where things are going because I'd read the books. I remember all the stuff, but it was like right the middle of season 2 where I realized that I couldn't, bank on what I remembered from the books as to predict what was going to happen. As far as when Sophia comes out of the barn at the end of the first half of season 2.
Right.
Because at that point, she was still alive in the books.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like,
yeah, so right there, you're like, well, okay,
yeah.
anything can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured things like the CDC in the episode where, Rick and them are helping the Hispanic guys who are working at the old folks' home, keeping those people alive. That was all stuff that they made up for the show. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that they didn't do in the books, but it doesn't mean that this didn't happen. So I was willing to, I'm like, okay, this is fine. They could have gone there. The CDC is out there, so they could have gone to the CDC. To see what's up.
All right. So I'm going to put yourself. I want to discuss how you would react should you wake up in a walker type situation. Now, from where I am, going to the CDC makes a lot of sense because it's Atlanta. It's 3 hours from here.
Yeah.
So for me, I would think, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to go there. I don't know where you would head. Where would you, from the West Coast, Los Angeles area? Where would you go?
The closest place for me to get away would probably be the ocean.
Catalina.
Well, I don't even know about Catalina. There's still quite a big population out there, but if I could get to if I can get to a dock or somewhere, get a boat, I could at least get away from some of that for a while. Cruise up and down the coast. But
it would have to be the fastest way out of there.
Yeah, I mean, trying to go out, heading east might be a mess because everyone's going to try and get away from the city.
Nobody's going south.
No, nobody's going to go south.
Nobody's heading south. Nobody's going, you know what? The right place to go? Mexico. Let's go there.
Yeah, as we've learned from Fear the Walking Dead, Mexico's just as bad as the rest of the place.
Oh, I haven't watched Fear the Walking Dead. Sorry.
No.
But yeah, so
Well, it also depends on what stage of the apocalypse. You know, if are we talking like Walking Dead, where Rick wakes up and who knows how long it's been going on? It's been months, and that everybody's turned, or Fear the Walking Dead, where it's the start of the outbreak, where there's still a lot more humans out there than there are.
Well, I assume we'd start at Fear the Walking Dead type of terrain, and then I'm not going to suggest that we're all in a coma and wake up to Rick's predicament, because from there you're just fuck whatever.
Yeah, the fact that Rick woke up from a coma and was able to get away from all of that, having been laying in bed for a couple months, muscle atrophy and all this, he was still able to escape like that. That's probably a bit exaggerated, but it's based on comic books, so you got that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, really.
Yeah.
So now, how about Glenn's appearance in the comic? Does that run parallel with the tank and all that?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've read the early stuff, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, me too.
Rick's check into Atlanta, the whole scene on horseback where he's walking down the empty freeway, right out of the comic book. Rick in the tank, that was pretty much spot on. And I want to say it was Glenn that he first encountered, as the first living person that he encountered in the city. I don't remember. Was there other people with Glenn in the show when Rick first encountered them, or was it just Glenn?
Yeah, there was other people in the building. He had T-Dog in there.
That's right.
And Merle was there, and because they locked Merle up on the roof.
Yeah.
I think
Andrea,
and those not Andrea, Amy,
her sister. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Amy was there.
Yeah, because and some of those characters were made up for the show. T-Dog and Merle were characters that were created specifically for the show.
So there were, I'm sure there were. I'm not sure about the comic whether there were people with him or not.
Yeah, but, it's been a while since I've read it, but
it is one of my favorite bits. Is when he's getting attacked by a horde and climbs into that tank, and then all of a sudden here's Glenn on the radio.
Yeah,
that's one of those. It's one of those Hatch kind of moments.
Yeah. I mean, it was. If Rick hadn't been, hadn't heard somebody and, had a plan to get out of there, he might not have made it out of Atlanta. Like I said, being in a city like that is one of the worst places to be in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, especially when, the government's telling people head to the cities are safe. And then obviously that's not very true.
All right. See, Tammy's correcting us in the chat.
Okay.
She says Andrea stole the unicorn necklace to give back to Amy. So Andrea was with him. Andrea and Jock? I can't read. I'm too blind for this.
Yeah, I mean there were a lot of characters in the first season or so that weren't in the books. I mean, it's one of those things. You got a lot of characters in the books, you got a lot of characters in the show. They're not always going to line up. Like I said, Merle and Daryl were created specifically for the show. T-Dog was created for the show.
Right, and those characters I was talking a little bit about in our pre-show. There's some stereotypical Southern bullshit in the way that this is set up. I understand it's in Atlanta, it's in the South, so that's cool. But we're not all racist assholes. Some of us are actually liberal and cool. We do exist. There's not many of us, but it's getting groovy. They're talking about legalizing pot in South Carolina. That would be very groovy.
Yeah.
So whenever I see a show, and this show happens to do a lot of it because it's set in Atlanta mostly, or Georgia, let's say, some of these stereotype people are bad. Herschel is that Southern conservative, my family over everything.
Well, yeah, the former preacher,
who keeps
former alcoholic,
keeps the walkers in the barn, even though, I just didn't understand that they wasn't still alive. No, man, come on. It makes people in the South look stupid, and I get so tired of that depiction. So whoever's in Hollywood, make us look smart, because some of us we are kind of groovy.
But see, I mean, it's kind of that whole being stupid thing is kind of true of most TV shows. I mean, you look at any show, it's like, okay, take a cop procedural. The cops are, the cops in the show are smart, but everybody else is fucking stupid. It's like, you should have, anybody else should have been able to pick up on that. Don't get in the car with this guy, or don't do this. I mean, but yeah, I mean, they depict these people as being, having no common sense or just being absolute idiots.
Right, and it's just, we get up on the roof and it's a racist thing that has to tear the group apart and make it a bad situation. It does. No. Come on. I mean, at a certain point, all that bullshit would go bye-bye.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Be over. I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to the point where there's only a handful of people left, and you realize that you got to rely on these people to survive because you can't really do it on your own. That stupid drama that just, you'd focus more on survival than, being set in your old ways.
Right. Just for basic human interaction, to be able to carry on a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
I just think that a lot of bullshit would drift away if there was a Walker apocalypse. I'm not calling for a Walker apocalypse, though. If Trump's elected, it may happen.
But I mean, look at what happened after 9/11. All of a sudden, everyone's like, well, we're Americans. It doesn't matter what color you are. We're Americans. We're going to fight against the terrorists. And then as soon as that was over, then it's like we go back to the same old bullshit. Once the threat's over, then everyone reverts back to their former selves.
Yeah, it's this country's so messed up. So, all right, enough of that. Comparing The Walking Dead to the state of our country is a bad road to go down. In a lot of ways, they have it better.
Yeah.
But these are the Epstein years, like I was saying. So, while they're putting the band together, is there anybody you felt was absolutely extraneous, just worthless on the show, that didn't necessarily need to be there? Or did they just give you enough cannon fodder to kill some people off and make you emotional with some of the earlier people that died? Yeah,
like Carol's husband, wasn't important to the story, but he
needed to die.
And he helped, get sympathy for Carol, because Carol was kind of boring in the beginning. She was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sit there and wash my clothes, and I'm gonna help out the group. But when you realize she's got this abusive husband who's just this giant asshole, they really make you feel more for Carol, and the fact that then they gave her a bigger role throughout the show, a much different path than her comic book role. But
how does Carol's comic book character roll out?
She doesn't make it out of the prison.
Oh. All right. Well, the prison's rough. That's my favorite part, by the way.
Well, she goes out by choice.
All right. Well, all right. We have that in this to end season 1. Let's get ahead to Herschel. We're about halfway here.
Yeah.
So they do get to CDC and they go in and they realize that there's no cure and there's no scientist. There's nothing left.
Yeah, and it's run by one guy in the place whose plan is to lock them all in.
Right, and he's going to basically blow it up because you can't let all these viruses and whatnot get out because America.
Yeah,
these are the things we do.
I mean, who knows? Maybe one of those viruses in the CDC could have been used against the zombies. Who knows?
I'm sorry. There was a comment. Ed was important. We need to see where Carl came from and what she once was. All right. So it turns out the chat is quite distracting.
I wanted to make one point about Carl in the first season that and it's a little Robert Kirkman reference. In the first couple episodes, he's wearing a shirt, the Science Dog shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Science Dog was a reference to one of Kirkman's other comic books, Invincible. In the comic book Invincible, Science Dog was a comic book character that the main character read.
Oh, right on.
And so it was a cool little throwback. Kirkman kind of tipping his hat to himself throughout the first season.
Right. The comment that distracted me was in the chat was that Ed was important because we needed to see where Carol came from. Ed, yeah. So yeah, we agree with that. We needed Ed, and we needed Ed to die.
Yeah,
and we got all that. So I'm good for that. And it did move Carol into a different direction.
Yeah.
And the way Carol goes in the TV show, half of me wants her and Daryl to have a love affair. Half of me is convinced that Daryl likes boys. Another half of me is convinced that Daryl has no sexuality at all. And I'm not sure that Carol wouldn't just be attracted to the lady. So there's a lot of confusion going on there, but I think the whole world kind of wants them to do something, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and they've kind of been hinting at it for a couple seasons now. Like, season 2 especially, you see that bond between Daryl and Carol when he's helping look for Sophia. I mean, he goes balls out looking for this little girl,
Absolutely,
and it wasn't even Carol's
search,
child.
right? Right.
It's not even Carol's child. Carol's taking care of this girl for somebody else, and Daryl just like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna go find this girl. And just like, and you can kind of see that something going on between the two of them there, and that they've never ever really delved into it after that. But they can, every so often you get that glance between the two of them, and it's like, oh, maybe this is gonna happen, maybe it's not.
Oh well, see now Tammy's calling for Carol and Morgan to be a couple.
Well, see, yeah, with the way they've changed them, they would definitely they definitely seem more likely to be together in the way the show's going now. But I don't know. I think Carol is, she's kind of damaged at this point. I don't know if she's irreparably damaged, but I'm not saying
everybody's damaged at this point.
Well, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, because I mean, you look at, she was consciously trying to make a change in who she is. And again, this is something we'll talk about probably in the 3rd episode, because we see a lot of this in like season 5 and 6. But yeah, she's definitely trying to change who she was, because I mean, she goes from being this like meek little housewife in the 1st and 2nd seasons to becoming this badass later on in the show.
She's fully bad. She is fully Chow Yun Fat later on. She's badass.
Oh yeah, teaching kids how to use knives. He's like, this is the proper way to stab somebody. And it's like, whoa.
It's like she went through a Tarantino training camp.
Yeah.
Awesome. One of the things about season 2 when it starts is they start on the highway, and Sophia gets lost and runs off into the woods, and that's why the big epic search goes on. It's one of my favorite pieces on the show is when they're hiding under the cars, and like a small little horde of walkers is coming through, and they're trying to be quiet. And those moments, those are my favorite. That kind of tension.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
where any moment somebody could just be dragged out and done.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, just please let it be somebody. And you get through them sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The horror movies, it's not all about the blood and gore and the people getting ripped apart. It's those tension moments that just really heighten the mood. Yeah, when you've got somebody hiding in a cupboard somewhere, or hiding under a car, or there's thousands of walkers coming by. It's like, holy shit, how are they going to get out of this one? It could so easily go sideways, and you're sitting there like hoping everything's going to be okay, and it's just, you're sitting there on the edge of your seat, holding your breath, waiting for this moment to pass, and hoping everything's okay.
I think on the highway we start to see the first signs that Andrea has a thing for dudes that are power hungry and cracked.
Yeah, and again, this is opposite of the book, because in the book, Andrea and Amy were hooking up with Dale. The 3 of them were kind of an item.
It was a 3-way love affair.
A little bit, so yeah, they were all sleeping in the camper. There was a bit of there was something going on there. But yeah, you see her kind of get attracted to Shane. Shane's teaching her how to shoot, and
there's no reason to be attracted to Shane. John Barenthal, you can be attracted to him all you want. But do not be attracted to Shane. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I so don't like that guy. But it's coming. His end is so close. Close. So I had another card today.
There were so many times throughout that season that's like, when are they going to kill him? When are they going to kill him? He's got to die. When are they going to do it? When are they going to, finally, when is he going to finally push that last button that's going to make somebody take him out? And they made you wait for it all second season.
Oh, it was so long.
There were so many moments where it's like, this is it. This is good. This is when it's going to happen. When they're coming back from the high school. And it
was kind of like us getting ready for Preacher to start. Like, oh, and then when like the first season ended, we're like, okay, so Preacher's about to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So now
there's that part where they're leaving the high school and they're looking for the supplies because Carl's, getting worse, and Shane and that one guy, one of Herschel's kids, or in-laws, or
Otis.
Yeah, and Shane just hobbles the guy so that he can get away. I mean,
He's a class act.
yeah.
Yeah, I hate that guy. So anyway, Carl gets shot by Otis and the deer. One of the best shoots. One of the best. He's just about to touch the deer, and it's so. It's like, I love you, Jack. I'll never let go. Oh.
Yeah, Carl does not have a good track record with with people shooting at him.
Yeah, Carl gets shot at a lot,
and he gets hit a few times too.
Yeah, he needs to duck.
Yeah.
So Carl takes the bullet through the deer, and this is how we get to Herschel's farm. And this is where we meet a ton of characters that will be with us for a while.
Yeah.
Maggie, Herschel himself, the other daughter whose name is Beth. There you go. Beth is with us for a little bit. What does that say? I don't know. I wrote a note that I don't get. All right, so the second season kind of rolls around on the basic gist of, hey, we're here, we're going to hang out at the farm, we're going to get Carl better, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first bit throughout the series where the group seems to kind of have found a safe spot, where they could actually survive if that's what they wanted to do. I mean, they've got this nice bit of land that Herschel was kind enough to let them camp out on. They've got fences around them. There's farms. They're not too far from towns where they could get some supplies if they need to. This is the first chance where it's like, okay, well, maybe if this is what it's going to be, we could, maybe make a life here and, hold out this little bit of land.
I can understand that, especially, again, living where I live now.
Yeah.
I know there are plenty of big, giant, well-fortified houses full of fucking guns just down the road.
Oh, yeah. That is the South for you.
Oh, yeah. See, we have an evacuation plan. We know where to go first.
Yeah.
And then we know where to go for more guns. And around here, it's not going to be hard. They're everywhere.
They're within walking distance of you.
Oh, my God. One trip through the neighborhood and Arsenal. Arsenal.
It looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger at the end of Commando.
So I think that would be a safe plan. I like some of the other ideas that are explored in this, the prison that we get to later. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
If you're ever in a Walking Dead situation, that's perfect. Go find you something fortified. I've always been a big fan of high rises. I can understand in Atlanta that was probably easier.
Yeah.
Shut off the bottom floors, and you can live in a high rise for a long time if it's full of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Getting out is tricky.
That is true.
Getting out on a farm, a lot easier. Plus horses.
Yeah, and it's flat, so you can see for miles around you if anything's coming along. I
can go out to the farm where they have Bonnaroo. That's 700 acres of wide open. Yeah. So yeah, there are plenty of places to go. Just don't be dumb. In the case of a zombie apocalypse. And the dumb person is Andrea. Andrea's so dumb. Her taste in men is horrible. It says Andrea is proving that she gravitates towards powerful, slightly damaged men. And there's way more of that to come.
Yes.
Lori gets the knock up, which everybody sees coming from a mile away because she banged Shane. So there has to be some baby drama.
Well, yeah, she was banging Shane, then she was banging her husband when he came back, She's
a whore. So I don't know how everybody feels about Lori. I was never a big fan. So
she wasn't okay. I mean, she was a character for the most part that just kind of seemed there. She didn't have. I never felt she had like any kind of like important role throughout the series. She wasn't like the opposite of anybody. She wasn't like the Rick's voice of reason.
The chat room says Andrea's an idiot. I agree. Yeah.
I liked her better in the books. She was kind of stupid in the books in the beginning too, but as she went on, she became a badass. Again, I mean, that's the thing. Most of the characters that survive long enough in this book
become badasses. Badass, right?
Yeah, it's like she became like an expert sharpshooter. You know, she
Well,
was.
yeah, well, she does that in the show. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's like their sniper. Like they put her up in the watchtower in the prison, and she's the one that's picking off people. You know, from
she's not exactly bullseye in the show, but
no, not at all.
And she's not Michonne. And as far as Michonne goes, Rick better get his fucking pickle out of my girl, or I'm going to come down to Atlantic. I know we're not at Michonne yet, and I hate to even bring her up into season 1 and 2, but damn, Michonne would have been way more fun.
Yeah.
She should have been there from the get-go. She is my favorite character by far. So I love her to death, and he better get his pickle out of my girl.
Yeah. Michonne's definitely a fun character.
So at the bar, at Herschel's, we find that the barn has a secret.
Yeah, a very big secret. Glenn goes up there one night just to kind of get away from things.
Some booty.
Yeah, and finds that there's a barn full of zombies, and rightfully so, he freaks the fuck out because you've got probably 15, 20 zombies in the barn, like not 20 feet away from where everyone's sleeping, being held in place by a old wooden door and a lock. And you've seen what zombies can do when they're riled up. They can bust through a door. What?
Properly motivated.
Exactly. So he rightfully so that he should be a little freaked out, and that the group itself should be freaked out. But
freaked out, I understand. Did Shane overreact?
Oh God, yeah, he did.
Of course he did, because he's Shane and he's an asshole.
Yes. Shane's first response is, I'm gonna go in there and kill them all. Fuck it.
But it makes Herschel realize that these people are not sick, that they're dead, and that they're not the people he once knew. Well, that's a very important lesson that he needed to learn, because you don't fucking keep the walkers in the barn. I'm sorry, trying to read the chat. Tammy had a question. She said, in the books, does Rick and Andrea hook up?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
So that happens. See, I can't even imagine that on the show. So it's better than him. It's better than him putting it in Michonne. So
that didn't happen in the book.
Well, okay, I'm fine with that though. But I'm fine with it not happening. That's what I'm fine with.
The point you're trying to get is that you don't want Rick and Michonne banging.
I don't want anyone touching my girl. No. No.
Excuse me.
I have found there's no man I have found yet who is worthy of my beloved Michonne. So maybe Abraham, maybe.
Yeah, I liked Abraham, and when I heard they cast Michael Cudlitz as Abraham, I'm like, this is perfect. That guy just looked like Abraham from the start. He
is awesome. Yeah, but that's much later.
We're ahead of ourselves. Yeah,
we're way skipping ahead. We're just, let's get to Michonne. So all right, so we're talking about the barn, and Sophia comes out of the barn, and I think this is a moment that's huge for our man Carl.
Yeah, I mean, this was Carl's friend. This was like his only friend. This is the only person at his age that he had to hang out with. Because that was it. It was all a bunch of adults and then him. But
him and Sophia, they were pals. There was obviously going to be a budding romance one day.
But this is also a huge moment for Rick too in the show.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I mean, because when that mid-season break, as soon as Sophia walked, she's the last one walking out of the barn, and it's like that holy shit moment. It's like, fuck, you don't want to think it was going to happen, but all signs were pointing to the fact that she was probably dead, and this was the confirmation. And everybody in the group is like, they've killed everything else that walked out of that barn, and then everybody freezes when Sophia walks out. And Rick just walks right up and just like, boom. Rick didn't give a fuck.
He gave a fuck.
No, he did. But this
you're taking that one a little. No. It did show that he was willing to do what had to be done for the group.
That was the thing. Yeah, he was the kind of guy that would do whatever needed to be done for the group. But I mean, just like he didn't show any expression or emotion. He just like, this has got to be done, and walks right up. Didn't hesitate. Just went up and did it. And I mean, Rick's gone through some phases throughout the stories. Like when he first shows up, he's kind of like, okay, I don't want to be the leader. I'm okay. You guys have been doing this thing for a couple months already. You guys know what's up. I'll help out where I can. and then he gets thrust into the leadership role. And then there are times where he kind of gives it up again, but it always ends up falling back onto him.
Yeah, but he takes it. I mean, he wants it. He needs that job.
Yeah, I mean, there are times definitely where it seems that, yeah, he needs to be the man in charge, but there's times also where he does not want it at all. He just wants somebody else to be able to make those decisions for him.
And that was the whole point, I think, of the Rick Shane relationship, is that they both wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And you can't have two of that guy. And Rick breaks it down at the very end of season 2. And he says, this is not a fucking cheerocracy. I am a cheer-tater.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But I mean, but they also didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things too. I mean, not even the fact that, Rick was maybe a little bent that Shane was banging his wife, but Shane's like, okay, let's go kill all the zombies in the barn. And Rick's like, whoa, this isn't our place. Herschel, this is Herschel's farm. He's got ultimate say here. What's going on?
Okay, yeah, but
but he wanted to be leader, but he didn't. But him and Shane definitely did not see eye to eye on the same things.
Yeah, but Rick's decision making constantly puts the group in a situation where they're not the people making the decision.
Yeah.
They go into places. And we're getting ahead, but Woodbury and things like that, they're not the high man on the totem pole.
No.
But they ascend to that level because everything goes to shit whenever they walk in a room.
Yeah, I see that.
And so, Herschel says that everything was peaceful until you and your people showed up and ruined everything.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't all peaceful, but it had become what he was used to.
Yeah, exactly. This was the new way of life for him.
Change.
Right. Yeah, this was the new way of life for Herschel now. Yeah. I mean, there are times throughout the series though where you see Rick, just do something. And it's like, okay, this is not like the Rick we've seen 2 episodes before or 10 issues back. Things. And again, this is kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but Terminus, the way Rick handles that situation, is very different from, Rick in season 2 or Rick in season 3.
Right, I agree. And in our chat room, it says the moment Sophia got shot was the moment that Carl's childhood ends. And I'm like, all right, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly it. But it ends any illusions that Rick had that things would go back to normal.
Yeah.
I think that is the moment, once he puts the bullet in Sophia, that he knows it's not a going back, it's an only forward situation.
Yeah. And again, he's thinking all of his actions are for the sake of the group. Rick is definitely not selfish when it comes to, taking care of his people. And like I said, there are times where he's got to be just a complete asshole to get things done, and he does. And there are times where, he can take a diplomatic approach or things like that and try and get things done another way. But it doesn't always work out the same, and it doesn't always work out for the best, trying to say that, I think they try to say, hey, you guys can over in Woodbury can come over and share the prison with us. And like, no. Anybody, if Shane was there, Shane would have been like, no, get the fuck out of here. We're going to kill you if you come back here.
But I think he always seems to have one view that is directly opposite that of the other person in charge of wherever the situation is.
Yeah.
Whether it's, everything is Negan's or Woodbury is all community. But for some reason, Rick won't be all community for it, or he doesn't. He always has something that he's against the other person. Yeah, and I guess that's just conflict, and I guess that's just normal. Yeah. But he comes off. I'm starting to tire of it.
Yeah.
The longer the series goes on, I am starting to tire of it. And the other characters are certainly picked up the slack. Abe's one of my favorites now. Like I said, Michonne, obviously. And if she carried on as the leader for a while, and if something happened to Rick, I'd be cool with that. And things would go on, and they would continue to move or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of season 2, after being on the farm for a good portion of the season, they needed a change of location, and they also needed some safety. I needed to see them safe for a while, and I think we all did.
Yeah.
So when we see the prison at the last shot of the season, they're in their little camp, and Rick makes his not a cheer-tater speech, and then it pans up and you can see the prison just off in the distance.
Yeah.
And it gives you like, oh yeah. Well, for me, it was like, oh, I love the prison part.
Yeah.
But yeah, prison to me is the best. So I can't wait for our next episode.
See, there was one part about the season finale of 2 that was disappointing for me. That's something that they left out that I really wanted to see them do in the show. I mean, you've got Rick giving his speech, and he says that, oh yeah, the guy at the CDC told me that we're all infected. And it's like, okay, we kind of knew that. But in the book, the speech he gives is a little bit different, where someone comes out and says, we're the Walking Dead. He refers to themselves, to the survivors, as the Walking Dead because they're infected, because that's what they're going to become when they die. And the whole dramatic, that reveal, like, holy shit, this is, none of these survivors have ever looked at themselves as being like, we're the next, that's what's going to happen to us when we die. But him coming out and saying to the group, look, this is our future. This is what we're going to become. And that was that shocking moment at the end of that major story arc. And it's like, okay, wow, this kind of, flips the story around now.
Right. And so there really is no way to end this.
No.
Not in a good way. I mean, you can end it, but it's not going to make anybody happy when you kill them all off.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. There's always going to be new characters. There's always going to be other survivors you can find. We see that later on the show. There's always other groups here and there. But yeah, I mean, unless there's no way you can wipe out all the zombies in the world and start civilization all over again.
I believe there is.
Oh?
I believe there is. And I believe it starts with funneling, with getting them all going in one direction. And look, I'm not saying this is not a process that can be, done over the course of a weekend.
No, not at all.
I'm saying it's about planning and burning and mass execution, taking out hordes and hordes of them at a time. And then, yes, move on to the next city and do the same thing. And eventually, you're going to run out. Just the law says, if you keep burning the people, eventually they're not making more people at the rate you're burning them.
Yeah. But, you got to wonder if this is an infection somehow that's causing this, does that ever die out? Are the people that are still around, are they going to be, the next batch of zombies? And is this going to happen all over again?
The same question asked in The Stand and every other infection book is what happens after.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the This is the after the movie series.
Yeah. I mean, unless somebody develops some kind of immunity to this virus or this infection or whatever it is, and it gets passed on. But
all right, if they came out and said, like, in season 10, like, let's say, and then they come out and they go, oh, some Canadian scientist discovered a cure, and we make our way to Canada and we eat a donut and we're cool.
Play some hockey.
Would you be okay with that?
No, not at all.
No, I wouldn't either. I would be like, well, how chicken shit is that?
But I mean,
I don't think carrying it is the right way to end it.
You mentioned The Stand. You had a handful of people that were immune to this virus that ravaged the population. I mean, what was it? Some survivor, because people are having kids, obviously, some trait is, passed down through the genes of, some immunity to this virus, to this infection. I mean, that is possible, but again, in order to end something like this, you'd have to get groups big enough together to handle these kinds of massive hordes, funneling them out like that.
I agree. I'm not saying this is something you could put together over a weekend.
Yeah, the logistics are staggering.
They are staggering. It's 8 billion strong that you have to get rid of, and that's a big number.
Yeah.
But, there are certain things you don't have to worry about. You only have to worry about your continent.
Yeah.
That's really all you have to worry about. And there's a lot more people in China and India than there are here.
This is true.
So this is 300 million we're talking about. This cake. But the Mexico that's a problem.
Yeah.
But we don't want to say it's an immigration problem because they're not walkers yet.
Yeah. And if and they're not walking across the border, so
Yeah. All right. So that's about all we got on season 1 and 2. Tammy is busting our chops pretty hard in the chat, so I'm going to study really hard for 3 and 4 next week.
Yeah, I got to brush up on 3 and 4 for next time.
So yeah, we'll look for some Easter eggs and see if we can find some stuff to to give you. She really liked your the T-shirt thing.
Oh,
the science thing.
the science dog shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, the science dog shirt. So we will do what we can to come up with some more gems for you next week. I can't wait till this season starts so we can just do our normal podcasty recap. It doesn't require a lot of going back and watching episodes. But we thank y'all for watching. I'm glad you came out in the chat room. Thank you very much. And we will see you next Monday night at 11 o'clock. Until then, love many, trust few, and do harm to no one.